That was pretty good. That was pretty good. It's time for convening has arrived, and the Senate will now come to order. I'd ask at this time that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. Continues to be my distinguished honor to get to recognize first every day, Senator from the 53rd.
Mr. President, it is truly my honor to be here today and amongst your outstanding leadership for the state of Georgia. A moment in time, in 1976 was the first time that a governor of Georgia could run for 2 terms. It was a resolution signed this date in 1976. And the senator from the 56 told me that this is a special day because it's Yellow Rubber Ducky Day. So I want to thank him for that from Fulton County. And on a important note, it is Rosa Parks Day as well. Mr. President, the journal has been read and found to be correct.
Thank you, sir. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? Chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions, please bring them up to the secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 349 by Senator James of the 35th and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Part 3 of Article 16 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to health so as to require local boards of education to provide feminine hygiene products in certain restrooms used by students, provide for definition.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 350 by Senator James of the 35th and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 16 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding public property so as to require that certain
State
restrooms.
institutions and property.
Senate Bill 351 by Senator Watson of the 1st and others, a bill to be titled an Act to provide for the holding of a non-binding advisory referendum election to determine whether the qualified electors of the state of Georgia desire to continue the advancement of
Government
time.
oversight.
Senate Bill 352 by Senator Burke of the 11th and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Code Section 3320C2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to online provider
Insurance
directories.
and labor.
Senate Bill 353 by Senator Parent of the 42nd and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to registration and licensing of motor vehicles so as to remove a fee for the operation
Finance.
of Senate Bill 354 by Senator Parent of the 42nd and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 1A of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding early care and learning so as to include participation in
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 355 by Senator Beach of the 21st, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to professions and businesses so as to change certain provisions relating to certain boxing, wrestling, and martial arts associations and
Regulated
federations.
industries.
Senate Bill 356 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding solid waste management so as to allow the expansion.
Natural resources.
Senate Bill 357 by Senator Heath of the 31st and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Part 3 of Article 4 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to carrying and possession of firearms so as to revise the ability of persons to carry weapons in places of worship and in schools.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 358 by Senator Harper of the 7th and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to state symbols so as to designate the muscadine grape as official state grape.
Government oversight.
Senate Resolution 690 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd and others, a resolution encouraging the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund and other entities to support the implementation of the Coastal Georgia Greenway and for other
Natural
purposes.
resources.
Senate Resolution 693 by Senator Sims of the 12th and others, a resolution dedicating the Ways and Means Conference Room under the jurisdiction of the House of Representatives to Representative Alfred Jackson J. Powell, Jr., and for other purposes.
Rules.
That completes order, Mr. President.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 822 by Representative Gamble of the 15th and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend an Act providing for the Board of Education of Bartow County, approved March 30th, 1987, as amended, particularly by an act approved April 5th, 2012, so as to change the description of the education districts, to provide for definitions and inclusions, to provide for continuation in office of
State and local government.
House Bill 825 by Representative England of the 116th and others, a bill to be titled an Act to amend an Act providing authority for members of the Board of Education of Barrow County, approved April 10th.
State and local government.
House Bill 831 by Representative Houston of the 170th, a bill to be titled an Act to authorize the assessment and collection of a technology fee by the Probate Court of Cook County.
State and local government.
House Bill House Bill 841 by Representative Scoggins of the 14th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend an act to provide a homestead exemption for certain Bartow County ad valorem taxes.
State and local government.
House Bill 851 by Representative Reeves of the 34th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend an act creating the state court of Cobb County, approved March 26, 1964, as amended, particularly by an act approved May 2nd, 2017.
State and local government.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will now read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Assignments has had under consideration the appointments to the Judicial Qualifications Commission made by the Governor, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the Supreme Court of Georgia for various terms, and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that the appointments be confirmed as submitted. Respectfully submitted by Honorable Jeff Duncan, Chair. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: Senate Bill 302 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted by Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd District, Chair. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, it's now time for a morning roll call. It is now time for a morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 22nd, 26th, and the 15th for business. Oh, and 34th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senators from the 34th, 22nd, 26th, and 15th are excused. Are there any? Yes, there are. Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate excuse the senator from the 17th.
Without objection, the senator from the 17th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 45th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 45th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 55th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 36th.
Without objection, the senator from the 36th is excused. My apologies. Chair recognizes the senator from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th and, what's that, 11?
This is 15.
15th. Thank you.
Say the first one again.
26.
Without objection, the senators from the 26th and the 15th are excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 9th. Business outside.
Without objection, the senator from the 9th is excused. And last but not least, the chair recognizes the senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the great senator from the great district of 27.
Without objection, the senator from Forsyth County is excused. All right, the secretary will call the roll. The senators signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machines. Congressman? All right, it is now time for our morning devotional. It is now time for our morning devotional, and I'd like to ask that all senators, please take your seats and cease all audible conversations. I'd ask that the doorkeepers secure the doors at this time. Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 28th to lead us in our pledge and to introduce our chaplain of the day.
If we could all rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the pledge to our Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Well, good morning, everyone. Today gives me great honor to introduce you to my childhood pastor. This man baptized me, he married me, and he's been with my family for many highs and a few lows. He's got with him today his beautiful wife, Margaret Tyre, and then his neighbors, who happen to be my parents. Robert and Linda Brass are guests as well. But Dr. Gene Tyre served as 10 years as senior pastor at Rainbow Park Baptist Church in Decatur, served 23 years as senior pastor at my childhood church of First Baptist Church, Noonan, and the last 15 years he served at Providence Baptist Church in Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia, which also happens to be in my district. And he has been the vice president of the Georgia Baptist Convention, chairman of the administration committee for the Georgia Baptist Convention, chairman of the Georgia Baptist Hospital Commission, trustee at Mercer University, chairman of executive committee of the Georgia Baptist Convention, very involved in our local community, serves as chairman of the Summit Family YMCA. He's been the 2004 Coweta County Citizen of the Year, and he's been Volunteer of the Year at the Family YMCA as well. But one of my favorite things that he ever did locally was he was chaplain of our Noonan Cougar football team for 23 years. And I remember as a sophomore in high school and didn't play hardly at all, and they put me in a game that we were up really big, and they put me in to go kick an extra point. And I go in as this young sophomore, first time on the field, and I make the extra point. And our holder, he stands up, gives me a pat on the helmet, and says, "Brass, I didn't think you were going to make it." And then I kind of go run to the sideline, and I'm still pretty excited, and one of the coaches come up, and he says, "I can't believe you made it." And then one of the other players grabbed me, a senior, and he says, "Brass, I didn't think you were going to make it." And then there's Dr. Tyre, and with open arms, he grabs me and picks me up, and he says, "I just knew you were going to make it." And it's that kind of attitude that just has really helped encourage me to go on to do bigger and greater things than kicking an extra point. But he's also inspired many young men and women that have come through his church just through his love and compassion and showing us how to truly walk with God. So with that, I introduce you to my good friend and my good mentor, Dr. Gene Tyre.
Thank you so much, Senator Brass. When Senator Brass came to me and shared with me that he was going to run for state senator, at that very moment I looked at him and I said, "I know you are going to make it." And he did. And we are so proud of him and the tremendous servant leadership he provides for our community. So Senator Brass, Lieutenant Governor Duncan, members of the Georgia State Senate, administrative staff, and guests, I'm honored to serve as your chaplain of the day. Thank you so much for the invitation. Several years ago, I was driving south on I-75 to Noonan, following a visit with a sick parishioner at Piedmont Atlanta Hospital. As I was making my way around the Grady Curve, I saw a sign on a huge cylinder. In fact, when I arrived here today, I saw the cylinder, but I couldn't see the sign from where we were parked. The huge cylinder is viewed by thousands of people each day. The sign was placed there by Corey Advertising, and the sign conveyed a very powerful message, and I'm sure that each of you have seen the message. The message reads, "Just be nice." Those words pierced my soul and found a dwelling place in my mind. Today, we live in a nation that is characterized by division, by bitterness, by conflict. But the hour is now when the words on the cylinder not only need to be read, but need to be lived. Just be nice. The hour is now when we must speak positive and kind words. We must think positive and kind thoughts. And we must be positive and kind persons. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount issued the call to be nice and to express that through acts of kindness. A young chemist in his company announced one day that he had discovered a great new solvent capable of completely dissolving anything. It could dissolve concrete, steel, glass, plastic, really anything. And the chief engineer in the company asked him a very important question. When it comes time for storing this new powerful solvent, what kind of container will you use? You see, anger and resentment and bitterness and spite are like that solvent. They have the power to ruin that which contains them, namely the human heart, and namely the human mind. As senators of our great state of Georgia, and its guests here today, we all have a great opportunity that will build bridges that will give proof that love is far more powerful than hate. Cooperation is far more powerful than conflict. Respect can be expressed and lived in the midst of diversity and differences. Carl Sandburg once said, "There's an eagle in me that wants to soar, but there's also a hippopotamus in me that wants to wallow in the mud." I think that's probably true of all of us. You feel the eagle and the hippo in your own heart. I know I have. One side of us wants to prejudge. One side of us wants to brood. One side of us wants to nurse grievances. But on the other side of us, there's a desire to withhold judgment, to make honorable compromises, and to be about the business of building bridges of reconciliation. This is where the challenge and opportunity to just be nice becomes so important in defining who we are, how we live, how we learn, how we lead. My challenge today is to be nice, showing kindness that gives evidence of what we're all called to be in places of leadership. We are called to be servant leaders. You are servant leaders. We are so blessed in our region to have a servant leader like Senator Matt Brass. The concept of servant leadership was introduced in 1970 by Robert Greenleaf. And I believe that servant leaders are persons who don't use others to get the work done, but who use work to improve the quality of persons' lives. Servant leadership teaches us that we must serve before we have the opportunity to lead. The quality then that really defines a servant leader is that of just being nice and expressing kindness. I've learned through the years that kindness empowers people to see the world from a different perspective. It enables them to experience hope rather than despair, to understand that light is more powerful than darkness, that grace is far greater than greed, and failure is never final. Mark Twain once said, "Kindness is a language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see." Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "You cannot show a kindness too soon, for you never know how soon it will be too late." Charles Finn once said, "Each time you show kindness, each time you try to understand because you care, when that happens, my heart grows wings." Jewish legend about two brothers who lived side by side on farms, and one of the brothers was married and had children while the other brother lived alone, and they loved each other deeply. And one day the bachelor brother began to worry about his married brother, and he thought, my brother has many mouths to feed while I have more than I need. So the bachelor brother came up with a plan. Each night he delivered a basket load of grain from his barn to his brother's barn. Meanwhile, the married brother thought to himself, see how fortunate I am with a fine family to care for me, but my brother's all alone. I'd like to help him. So the married brother decided that each night he would deliver a basket load of grain from his barn to his brothers. You can imagine what happened. One night the moon was full. The two brothers met near the boundary of their farms, and each one carrying a basket load of grain toward the other's barn. And instantly they understood what the other was up to, and they put down the baskets and they embraced. According to this Jewish legend, that very spot where the brothers met was the spot where the wise King Solomon selected as the site for the great temple. May God plant in each of our hearts the seed of kindness. My challenge to you today is this: he who has a kind and humble heart has a greater gift bestowed than wealth obtained at the honors mart or power upon the throne. Let us pray. Our Father, we give you praise for these servant leaders. I would pray that these servant leaders would inspire us so we inspire each other with our potential as individuals and as a nation. That a new spirit of forgiveness and compassion and honesty would be born all across this great land. God, give each of us the grace just to be nice. Amen.
Mr. Secretary, you please read a resolution for us?
Senate Resolution 581 by Senator Brass of the 28th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Reverend Dr. Gene Tyre on the occasion of his 60th pastoral anniversary and for other purposes. Whereas Reverend Dr. Gene Tyre has demonstrated his commitment to teaching the gospel, witnessing Christ through word and deed, and addressing the physical, psychological, intellectual, and spiritual needs of others. And whereas over the past 6 decades in ministry, Reverend Tyre has improved the spiritual and educational growth of the church and the surrounding community, serving in numerous roles with the Georgia Baptist Convention and as chairman of the Georgia Baptist Hospital Commission and trustee for Mercer University. And now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Reverend Dr. Gene Tyre on the wonderful occasion of his 60th pastoral anniversary and extend best wishes for many more years of successful fellowship and leadership. Back, please, order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to once again introduce. Oh, first we got to be official here. I was trying to be nice. Is there any objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Now, senator from the 28th is going to introduce our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lieutenant Governor just turned around and told Dr. Tyre that any man that put me through childhood or got me through childhood deserved a piece of paper to recognize that. But Dr. Tyre has been a great inspiration to me and my entire family. And you know, I needed to do this resolution afterwards because he needed more time than 5 minutes to preach, and I needed more time to introduce the man. But he is actually a native of Wayne County, just like the home of the great senator from the 19th there. But Dr. Tyre's been preaching for 60 years, and so with that, Dr. Tyre, this was a surprise to him, but I know he's not a man short of words, so I'm going to let him come up and say a few quick words.
Gave me more than 5 minutes. I'm shocked. I'm probably for the first time in my life, I'm really at a loss for words. But I love this great state, and I love servant leaders. And you wouldn't be in these great positions of leadership today had it not been for servant leaders. And I would not have had the blessing that I've had in my life had it not been for those servant leaders. I grew up in Odom, Georgia. Great place to grow up. Servant leadership was not even known at that time, but my high school principal was a servant leader. My coaches were servant leaders. My teachers were servant leaders. My family were servant leaders. And I am blessed today to be surrounded by servant leaders. But I want you to know something else. 60 years in ministry, 60 years pastoring, literally pastoring a church. And I've been so blessed in so many ways. But I would have never been able to do what we've been able to do had it not been for this beautiful lady standing beside me. Had it not been for friends like Matt Brass and his parents, Robert and Linda. Thank you for this great day. My prayers are with you, and I join you in the walk. Let's just continue to be nice to one another. And even though we stand by our convictions, our differences, our diversity, we can all work together to make Georgia an even greater state. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Great job. You didn't know you were getting... I didn't. All right, the Senate will come back to order. Senate will come back to order. We're going to go ahead and introduce our doctor of the day, and I'd like to call on the senator from the 39th to do so.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Cheryl Grabram, and she's currently Emory's Surgeon-in-Chief for the Grady Health System. She's also the Deputy Director of the Georgia Cancer Center for Excellence at Grady and Director of the Avon Comprehensive Breast Center at Grady. She completed medical school at Georgetown University, surgical residency at the Washington Hospital Center, and received her MBA from the University of Connecticut School of Business. Her current research focuses on decreasing disparities of breast cancer through a community education outreach program and providing access to high-quality care for breast cancer patients in the Grady Health System. Dr. Gabram is a passionate program-building surgical leader who has improved the lives of breast cancer patients at Grady, especially for those who would ordinarily not have access to high-quality, multi-specialty care. In 2018, she was awarded the Trailblazer Award at the annual Grady White Coat Gala. And Dr. Gabram has already been hard at work this morning. I don't know if you saw her sprint out of the chamber to go and help someone who had a slight tumble. So she is ready to serve us today. Welcome, and thank you, Dr. Grabram.
Thank you so much, Senator Williams. It is quite an honor to spend the day at the Capitol. I'd like to read a quote from the American anthropologist William Ward that reminds me of the skills each of you have and the work all of you perform every day on behalf of the citizens of Georgia. Before you speak, listen. Before you write, think. Before you spend, earn. Before you invest, investigate. Before you criticize, wait. Before you pray, forgive. Before you quit, try. Before you retire, save. Before you die, give. My most sincere gratitude for the many hours all of you generously give in your roles as senators for the state of Georgia. Thank you very much.
We have some special guests with us here today. Mr. Secretary, will you please read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 563 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending the University of Georgia chapter of Blue Key National Honor Society on the occasion of Georgia Blue Key Day 2020 at the State Capitol and for other purposes. Whereas University of Georgia chapter Blue Key National Honor Society was founded in 1926 and has served the university and the Athens community for 94 continuous years. It is the third oldest Blue Key Honor Society chapter in the United States of America. And whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that the outstanding accomplishments of this remarkable and distinguished chapter be recognized appropriately. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend the University of Georgia chapter Blue Key National Honor Society on the occasion of Georgia Blue Key Day 2020 at the State Capitol and extend their most sincere best wishes for continued prosperity, growth, and success. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the Pro Tem to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Secretary of the Senate did an excellent job going over the resolution. Thank you very, very much. Those are great talking points. Established in 1926, serving the University of Georgia for 94 consecutive years, and also demonstrating and recognizing leadership and academic excellence at the University of Georgia. This is a great organization, and we are very fortunate to have had United States senators, United States representatives, U.S. Supreme Court justices, legislators, a whole host of individuals that have distinguished themselves in life through Blue Key. I'd like to also point out that the Honorable Blake Tillery and the Honorable Jack Hill and my son, Kerry Miller, is also a member of this organization, and we're very, very proud to have them in the state Senate here today. With us today, we have Bob Isler, who is not here with us. He's down on the second floor. We have Kathleen Reynolds. We have Azma Ali. We have Carolina Cotton. We have O'Keefe Johnson, Perry West, Janet Lance, and Marcus Dumas. We'd like to, for you folks to give them a warm Senate welcome, and we'll ask Kathleen to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you,
Senator Miller. It's an honor to be here today and to accept this recognition on behalf of UGA's Blue Key Honor Society. For over 90 years, Blue Key has honored and supported outstanding students on UGA's campus. Our members are selected for their character and for their distinction in scholarship, leadership, and service, continuing a rich tradition of recognizing the next generation of leaders, leaders who will go on to become notable in business and government and in their communities as well. We thank you for your support of the outstanding men and women who are Blue Key at UGA and for your service to our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll get right down here and get a photograph.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the resolution for our next special guests?
Senate Resolution 667 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others, a resolution recognizing February 4th, 2020 as Equine Youth Day at the Capitol and for other purposes. Whereas through participation in various local equine programs, students have represented their family, community, and state in displaying the highest level of discipline, and whereas participation in equine programs provides youth with the opportunity to learn and display responsibility and foster relationships with animals through care and respect. And now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize February 4th, 2020 as Equine Youth Day at the State Capitol and honor the 2020 Youth Equine Champions. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there any objection to adopting the resolution? The chair hears none and the resolution is adopted. Chair calls upon the senator from the 50th to introduce these special guests to us today.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor for me to introduce representatives for our Youth Equine Day at the Capitol today. We have some outstanding young people, and some of them like me, some of them not so young that are here today, but we have some outstanding people here we're going to introduce, but I know we've got some more people in the gallery and their parents are up there, so at this time I'd like to ask you to stand and let us give you a Senate welcome. Now, I thought we were going to have 5 people up here, but we did have one person who thought she was going to get out being recognized. I don't have any idea why she might have reservations about being recognized in front of this group, but I would like to point out that Robin Ginn, standing right over here, is a part of this group. We have 3 students up here. We have 2 world champions, and we have a person who went to Denver, Colorado, and was the national winner representing Georgia in the National Equine Quiz Bowl. Now, I was thinking I was not that good of a horseman, but I was thinking that would have probably been what I would have done in high school. I would have probably won the National Quiz Bowl. And if you believe that, I got some real estate I'd like to talk to you about. But let me introduce these young people, these world champions and these national winners. We have Sydney Staten. I told them work on that wave back there. They're doing good. Okay. Caroline Ingram. And our Quiz Bowl winner, Sophie Merka. Ann Jones is accompanying this group, and at this time I'm going to present this resolution to Ann and give her an opportunity to make some comments. Thank you.
We worked on their wave on the way up here. You never know when one of these will end up sitting in a chair here or across the hall. One thing I will tell you is that you almost never see a child that shows a horse or livestock of any kind end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. They amount to something. And I appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to recognize these kids that have excelled in their sport. And I appreciate you recognizing the folks that have funded their sport and have funded something for them to do other than a handheld game or a cell phone that occupies them 24/7. We will have probably 75 more young people that qualified to go to a world show that placed. They are at the depot. They will be back here at 12:40 on the north steps. We would invite anyone, any of you that are here, come meet them, have your picture made with us and the governor. The last thing, and this is what you want to pay attention to, lunch will be served between 11 and 12:15 at the freight depot. It is catered by the varsity. See, I knew that's the important part of the day. Folks, I thank you kindly. I thank the Lieutenant Governor. I thank Senator Wilkinson, and I thank all of you for allowing us this privilege. Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the next resolution for our special guests?
Senate Resolution 648 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, a resolution honoring and commending the firefighters of Georgia and recognizing February 4th, 2020 as Firefighters Recognition Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas there are over 30,000 firefighters in the state of Georgia from 900 fire departments that risk their lives every day to provide emergency services. And whereas the brave firefighters of Georgia have selflessly committed their lives to protection of life and property. And whereas because of the sacrifice these astounding individuals make every day, the citizens of Georgia are able to retain a deep sense of security. And now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body honor and commend each and every firefighter for their outstanding service to the people of this state and for going above and beyond the call of duty for their fellow citizens and recognize February 4th, 2020 as Firefighters Recognition Day at the state capitol. I please order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 56th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. I'm humbled to stand with my fellow firefighters behind me. Our firefighters are in each and every one of our districts and every corner of our state. They're the pillars of our community. Men and women who answer the call, and they have been aptly named the bravest. Challenge in the fire service continues to grow with time. Cancer is the #1 cause of death for those serving as a firefighter. But thanks to the good work we did in this building just a couple of years ago, passing the Firefighter Cancer Bill, it has made a real and positive difference in the lives of our firefighters and to those who have been stricken by that vicious disease, as well as those who serve knowing that there is a stopgap to help them and their family. The dangers are very real in the fire service. The year of 2020 is very short, and in that short amount of time, we have lost 9 members of the fire service nationally in line-of-duty deaths. One of them, just 2 weeks ago on January 21st, Roswell firefighter John Cash, age 43, died in the line of duty, leaving behind his wife and daughter. In the last 10 years here in Georgia, we have lost 21 brave souls in the line of duty. So today, before I make this introduction, I'm going to ask for your help. Simply to find your local firehouse in your community, stop by and say thank you. Shake the hands of the men and women who answer the call, even when we're eating Thanksgiving dinner, opening up Christmas presents on Christmas morning, or celebrating Easter Sunday service. And support them in their charitable events, their fundraisers, and the foundations that are meant to support all of our first responders. And work with me as we work to increase the Firefighter Pension Fund. It's an honor to stand with my brothers and sisters in the fire service and introduce behind me Chief Charles Wasden, who is the president of the Georgia Fire Chiefs Association, to speak on behalf of the Georgia Fire Service. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. On behalf of the Georgia Association of Fire Chiefs and President Bullard with the Georgia State Firefighter Association, I want to say we're honored to be here today. You know, we're here every first Tuesday in February of every year. It's an honor for us to be here, and if you see today, you'll see firefighters all around the Capitol. We start off this morning with a few meetings. We'll have a ceremony at 2:15 downstairs. We would love to see you there. We will end the day with a legislative dinner. I'd love to see you at the legislative dinner. You already have lunch provided, so we're going to provide you with dinner. So you got both meals provided today. So if you would please come over at the railroad depot, it's going to be from 5 to 7. I look forward to seeing you there. Last thing I want to leave you with is, you know, we all know that the Georgia's the greatest state in the nation. And with your help, we are the greatest fire service in the nation. Thank you very much.
Are there any unanimous consents? Chair hears none. We're going to move on to points of personal privilege. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? The chair recognizes the senator from the 6th.
Good morning. I would like to recognize some special guests in the gallery today, members of the Young Lawyers Division of the State Bar of Georgia. As a former member of YLD a long time ago, I know firsthand the work YLD does to shape young lawyers into servant leaders. Please join me in recognizing these young lawyers. And if you're in the gallery, will you stand up? Yay! Thank you. Thank y'all for being here.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it may surprise some of y'all, but I was once a slimmed, well-fitness kind of guy, and I was the fire chief of a small town fire department, which is more than putting out fire. I mean, being an official that helps with emergency services, you're called upon everything. Even when a senior lady may have a cat stuck in a tree, we're called. But our unsung heroes are those that support our community in our most severe tragedies. They're there for us. It's your fire services, your EMTs, your paramedics, your police officers, and many other just good citizens doing their good deed for the day, maybe. But I just want to thank the fire service and the firefighters. I couldn't say it better than the senator from the 56th, the chairman of public safety. But it is our duty to make sure that our fire services, emergency services, know that we care, know that we love them. Know that we know that they protect us. And they do it because it's their duty, and they know that. And they go home every night wondering, or their wives or their spouses wonder if they will make it back home. The fire service used to be the second most dangerous job. I think it could be legislature being the first. That was a joke, by the way. But thank you, and if you see a firefighter, as the senator from the 56 said, please thank them. Thank he or she for doing their job. Mr. President, I yield the way.
Thanks, Senator. The chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I stand with the senator from the 8th and the senator from the 10th, recognizing Georgia Primary Care Association Day at the state capitol. Let me tell you something that these 35 organizational units throughout our great state do such a great service for our state. We back in the 60s, we called them the free clinic, but they have evolved to provide services for the least, for not only for the least of us, for the least fortunate, but also to provide quality health care throughout our great state. They have over 30 school-based healthcare centers that protect children and give children care, because we know that many children don't have access to health care in Georgia. We know that rural Georgia don't have access to health care in Georgia, but primary health care associations provide that care for urban areas and for rural Georgia. So they're in our stands today. If there are any there that's representing Georgia's Primary Health Care Association, will you please stand? Wave your hand. Thank you for what you do for the state. Dwayne Cathcart, the executive director, is doing an outstanding job moving Georgia forward by providing health care to the least of us.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. This week is National Gun Violence Survivors Week. In recognizing this week, we ask everyone to shine a spotlight on the stories of Americans who have lost loved ones by gun violence, who have been wounded or threatened with a gun, or witnessed or survived a shooting. By early February each year, more Americans are killed with guns than are killed in our peer countries in an entire calendar year. Almost 40,000 people in America were killed with guns in 2018. Just yesterday, 2 women were shot and killed, and a third injured in a residence hall on the campus of Texas A&M Commerce, a public college about 60 miles northeast of Dallas. Stories like theirs break our hearts, and I hold their families in my heart this morning. The tragic, infuriating, and all too common loss of life to gun violence in this country should spur us all to action. Gun violence is a scourge on our society, and we must find the courage to address it. Thank you. I yield the well.
Thanks, Senator. The chair recognizes the senator from the 10th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of this great body. I have 2 resolutions that I prepared, both of them from 2 great men. One is our Supreme Court Justice, Justice Benham, congratulating him upon his retirement. And the other one is for Dr. Thomas Coleman, who has served in state government for the last probably 30 years of his life. He currently serves on Juvenile Justice Board, and he's also served with multiple presidents, Republicans and Democrats alike, upon his retirement. And if I haven't been able to make it around to your desk, I apologize. I would like to get every member of this body to sign off on the resolution for Justice Benham and for Dr. Thomas Coleman. So again, thank you, and please let me know if you might sign this resolution. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come down to recognize the community health centers. The state of Georgia has got 38 health center operations that operate 229 clinics across this state in 120 counties. I placed a map on your desk to show you where all these people have got operations. In 2019, they served over 600,000 patients. They are especially strong in providing pregnant women services and pediatrics. In the gallery, we have a group of community health center personnel. And at this time, if y'all would stand, please, I'd like to recognize you. Here we go, right up there. Thank y'all a lot. I have a resolution that I'll present to them another time in a more appropriate manner. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to remind
Each of us that behind us and the opportunities to come and serve are the men and women back in our districts or in our offices. And today I rise to recognize two young ladies that do that. One back in our district, Kara Duke, who celebrated a birthday this weekend. And then today in our office, Haley Allen. So I'd ask each one of you to go by our office, help us to celebrate Haley's birthday, and let her know how much we appreciate all she does, not only in my office, but many of yours. With that, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Today I rise to celebrate, recognize, and appreciate a group of strong women who contribute to our communities, our neighborhoods, and our state. Today I am celebrating women clergy and clergy wives because they spread the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. They are members, wives, mothers, leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and pastors. And if it was not for them, our pastors wouldn't have an intercessor every week. They labor to bring us a sound word on Sunday mornings. They look good, they drive good, they eat good, and it's all because of their wives. So when you get home, when you go to church Sunday and you see your pastor's wife, or if your pastor is a woman, I need you to give her a big hug and appreciate her like never before. Ladies, please stand and be recognized by our senators. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Black History Month, and in this body for the past 7 years, during the month of February, members get up and recognize some event or some person in Black history. So as you know, this will be the first day that we recognize Black history. But growing up, I experienced firsthand the effects of segregation. And while slavery is outlawed today, the chains of hate still weigh down in society today. Today, I would like to recognize a great man who changed the course of history. In the early 1900s, Carter G. Woodson lobbied extensively to establish set aside a time to honor and pay tribute to generations of African Americans. Carter G. Woodson graduated from, and he was the only African American born to former slaves' parents to receive a PhD in history, and second African American to receive a doctorate from Harvard University after W.E.B. Du Bois. After finishing his education, Woodson dedicated his career to the field of African American history and lobbied extensively to establish they call it Negro History Week. He started the publication Journal of Negro History in 1916 and created the Negro History Bulletin to help teachers with African American studies. The collections and the research and writings and publishings that he did laid the foundation for the study of African American history as a legitimate field. Carter G. Woodson conceived the idea of Negro History Week, and he looked at the fact that February would be great due to the birthdays of two important figures in African American history, Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, who were both born in February. So in 1976, the entire month of February was allocated as Black History Month by our President of the United States at that time. No one has played a greater role in helping all Americans know the past that Carter wanted everyone to recognize. While we remember the names of Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, and Booker T. Washington, let us also remember the forgotten slave fathers and mothers who raised families under unimaginable conditions and who helped to build this nation. Mr. President, I yield the well, and I have today the honor of talking about a great man, Carter G. Woodson. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 55th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to recognize one of my constituents of the 55th District, Dr. Douglas Ely, who is a professor of political science and international affairs at the University of North Georgia, located in Gainesville, Georgia. I hope that they are in the gallery so that we can recognize them and congratulate them for being here. Will you please stand up for a second? He has with him about 3 students that are here today to observe the political process, to see how we do things here in the Senate. He has Ping Bun, Nichols Fatal, Rafael Sanchez. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Georgia Senate.
Chair recognizes the senator. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to take this time to introduce everyone to a very special guest and a good friend of mine, Mr. Garnet Reynolds. Garnet was just named on Thursday as the Coweta County Citizen of the Year. And I'll tell you, like his dad told you, that just means he can't afford to say no. But Garnet, I'm proud to know you, proud to be a friend, and thank you for being here. And his son David is paging with us today. So Garnet, thank you very much.
All right, we're going to continue to move on here. You've got a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Chair sees none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? The chair sees none. All right, we're going to move on to the rules calendar. Will the secretary please read the caption to Senate Bill 159?
Senate Bill 159 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a bill to be titled an act to amend Title 40 of the OCGA relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to provide for the operation of motorized mobility devices, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, on January 28, 2020, the Senate Committee on Transportation recommends that this bill do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Beach of the 21st chair. The Senate Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 159, a bill to be titled an act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to allow local authorities to regulate operation of electric scooters upon highways under their jurisdiction, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Tippins of the 37th and Senator Gooch of the 51st offered the following amendment number 1 to amend Senate Transportation Committee substitute to Senate Bill 159. By amending line 24 to read as follows. Regulating the operation of electric scooters, including considering protecting persons and property within requirements of liability insurance, provided that such regulations. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st to speak to the bill and the amendment.
Good morning, colleagues. I bring to you SB 159. This is a bill that we've worked on extensively since last year. We had this bill introduced early in session last year. We did not move on it during our session, but we did create a study committee which we met over the summer and worked on these important issues. The study committee consisted of the senators pro tem and the chairman of transportation, the chairman of public safety, and the chairman of economic development, and myself. We met 4 different times here in Atlanta, at the Capitol, at the Beltline, in various places, and we took testimony from different people with different interests. Of course, the industry representatives were involved in the process the entire way. The local governments, GMA and ACCG, also took participation in the discussion. We also had doctors from Grady Hospital and other medical professionals to give their input on the topic. One of the things that we heard throughout the process was that one size does not fit all in this situation. We heard from some cities that banned scooters totally. We heard from a university down at Georgia Southern who is actually embracing the scooter industry, and they're actually contracting with the scooters to provide first and last mile solutions to the college students. And we felt that was an important aspect of ingenuity and creativity. So we want to encourage this new technology. First and last mile transit solutions are a big need in our state. The scooter industry is growing. It's just come to Georgia about 2 years ago. It's going to create great opportunities for our communities. The city of Atlanta embraces the scooters as well. And so we didn't want to overregulate the industry. We didn't want to put a lot of barriers in the way. In fact, we want to encourage more development of this kind of technology. And so this bill today is a simple one-page bill that simply codifies what a scooter is. It defines a scooter in the lines 10 through 19, and it also preserves any further regulation to be left for the local government. So this bill gives total local control to the cities and the counties, and I know the local governments outside in the hallway enjoy that opportunity every chance they get, and they support this bill. The amendment that you see on your table today is an amendment that we changed prior to coming into the chamber this morning. We do support this amendment, different than the original intent of the amendment that we talked about this morning in our caucus meeting. So I would ask everyone to support the amendment. The amendment simply allows the local governments to consider liability insurance requirements. The insurance requirements are already being met by the scooter companies for general liability, but the local governments would be authorized to consider additional insurance requirements when they set their ordinances and their policies. Mr. President, I'm happy to take any questions on this bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a question.
Does the chairman yield?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You had said this is to preserve local control.
Yes.
I'm wondering why we need a bill at all to define scooter if local control, they can define a scooter, and the same with your liability insurance amendment. Why is this necessary at all?
Good question. And the insurance requirement language in here is maybe duplicative. That's already allowed by state law for the local governments to consider those additional regulations. The codification is simply putting the definition of what a scooter is into code, and it's not considered a motor vehicle. It would be similar to that of a definition of a bicycle or another self-propelled machine that is not motorized.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have no more questions, Senator.
Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to speak to the bill. You pushed the wrong button. Chair recognizes, where's he at here? The senator from the 37th to speak to his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I am very much in favor of the underlying bill as it was presented as a substitute by committee. In considering this, the bill and the ramifications is very simple. I'm entirely in favor of local control, but I felt like it's somewhere in the bill it needed to address the insurance requirements, and so in this we have changed the original proposed amendment that I had, that we insert in line 24, or line 24 will read, regulating the operation of electric scooters, and this is the added part, including considering protecting persons and property with the requirements of liability insurance. This is not a mandate, but this is the fact that they will consider the insurance ramifications. I've talked to several people, and most of the people I've talked to, they think about the person riding the scooter or the scooter company who has the investment in the scooter, but you've also got third-party liability of people that may be walking on sidewalks or streets that may be injured. That's a consideration that needs to be taken into when the local government set up their local regulations. If there's no other questions, I will yield the will. I would urge you to vote for the amendment and the underlying bill.
You have no questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st to close debate. He waives. All right, we're going to take up the amendment. Is there objection to adopting amendment number 1? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. The question is now on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question now being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. All right, on the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0, and this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the senator from the 33rd rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 20.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 20 by Senator Rett of the 33rd and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Chapter 60 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to general provisions relative to provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations, so as to provide for the establishment of banking improvement zones to encourage the opening of banks in areas underserved by banks and for other purposes. The House offers the following amendment to Senate Bill 20, a bill to be titled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to fertilizers, liming materials, and soil amendments, so as to authorize the Commissioner of Agriculture and for other purposes.
The senator from the 33rd has moved that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 20. Is there objection? Would the senator from the 33rd like to speak to his motion? He waves. All right, senator from the 33rd has moved that the Senate disagree to the House substitute for Senate Bill 20. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and the Senate has disagreed. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 o'clock on Wednesday, February 5th, 2020.
Ms. Secretary, please read the announcements.
Rules will meet upon adjournment in 450 cap. Ethics is canceled. Regulated Industries and Utilities will meet in 450 cap at 2 p.m. Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security will meet in 310 CLOB at 2 p.m. Banking and Financial Institutions is canceled. Natural Resources and the Environment will meet in 310 CLOB at 3 p.m. Agriculture and Consumer Affairs will meet in 450 cap at 4 p.m. Transportation will meet in 310 CLOB at 4 p.m. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Women's Caucus meets upon adjournment in the Legislative Office Building, 5th floor. Thank you.
Does any other senator have an announcement to make? All right, the chair hears none. So the majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Wednesday, February 5th, 2020 at 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. It is obvious that the ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned.